0 At this moment, the top of the mountain was filled with a hubbub of voices. Old Man Chang, who had been sitting cross-legged in silence for nearly 2 months, finally stood up in front of everyone's fervent gazes. "Io, this old man has an old arm and a waist. I can't sit still any longer." The moment he stood up, the old man's legs suddenly turned soft, and he almost fell to the ground. This caused everyone's hearts to suddenly jump. This old man's performance over the past few days had made everyone feel that he was mysterious and unfathomable, and they had never imagined that he would show such a reaction. "4 leaders, bring your students here." Ignoring the complicated expressions of the others, Old Man Chang looked at Su Ziyang and the other 3, pointed at the empty space in front of him, and said with a smile. Su Ziyang had a calm expression on his face. When he heard this, he walked straight towards the old man. The Yunluo Academy's result this time had greatly exceeded his expectations. He was already very satisfied with this result. Yi Zan, who was standing at the side, let out a bitter laugh. Her charming face revealed a trace of seriousness. Behind her, there were only 2 students, Zan Qingyi and Kiera. At this moment, Zan Qingyi's injuries were very serious, and with Kiera's help, she was doing her best to recover. Sighing lightly, Yi Zan's beautiful eyes turned to look at Su Ziyang with a complicated expression. The Yunluo Academy's result this time was really too proud. As for the Glaze Academy, other than Kiera, no one else had ever fought before. Zan Qingyi and Sang Shoshin of the Star Sky Academy had also gone through a great battle, but they were still unable to determine the victor. The 2 heavenly beasts who were watching the battle had no choice but to come forward and report to Old Man Chang. After discussing with a few elders, both of them arrived at the top of the mountain. Otherwise, it was likely that Kiera would be the only one in Glaze Academy this time. Southern Sky Academy also failed this time. While Yi Zan was secretly sighing, Tang Hong came to her side. There was a trace of worry on his usually smiling face. Next to him was Zhou Buyi and Zhou Xingyue. Didn't Lei Yunting not come up yet? His opponent should be that student called Xiao Yan from the Yunluo Academy. With Lei Yunting's ability, it shouldn't be difficult for him to win. Yi Zan glanced at Zhou Buyi and Zhou Xingyue, paused for a moment on Zhou Xingyue's body and said, "Even if he wins, he won't be a match for the Star Sky Academy." Hearing this, Tang Hong shook his head helplessly. The Star Sky Academy's side was much stronger than the other 3 academies. "Let's take it one step at a time. If we really can't do it, it doesn't matter if the 3 academies join forces. We can't allow the Star Sky Academy to dominate the entire sect." A trace of anger could be faintly seen in Yi Zan's beautiful eyes. Her cold voice rang in Tang Hong's ears. "Join forces." Upon hearing this, Tang Hong could only smile bitterly. In the last great battles of the past, in order to resist the Star Sky Academy, they did not join forces at that time. But in the end, because of the distrust between the students of the 3 academies, they were defeated by the experts of the Star Sky Academy one by one. "Everyone is here, right?" Under the gazes of the surrounding people, Old Man Chang narrowed his eyes and looked at the few people in front of him, and said in a soft voice, "Xiao Yan from the Yunluo Academy and Lei Yunting from the Southern Sky Academy have yet to come to a conclusion." Ling Ji Yu, who was standing at the side, said in a loud voice. Old Man Chang nodded his head. His eyes swept across all the students in front of him. When he saw Zhou Xingyue, his eyebrows twitched, but his expression did not change. He continued to look. His eyes swept across Kang Feng, who was standing behind Xing Qianyue. Old Man Chiang's indifferent expression finally changed slightly. From Kang Feng's body, it seemed like he had suddenly developed a violent emotion. With a thought, he forcefully eliminated this feeling. A look of shock appeared in Old Man Chiang's eyes. With his cultivation base and experience, few people could affect his emotions. How could this young man, who seemed like he didn't care about anything, have such an ability? Xu Mo, who had been paying attention to Old Man Chiang's expression, saw this and looked over. He deeply remembered Kang Feng's appearance in his mind. There must be something extraordinary about this young man who could move Kang Feng. Lei Yunting, he must be a genius of the Thundercloud clan in the Starfield. I heard that he has cultivated the lightning controlling technique of the Thundercloud clan a long time ago. He is very familiar with the lightning origin Qi. Since this Xiao Yan's surname is Xiao, there is a high chance that he has something to do with the Xiao clan. This is great. The Thundercloud clan has always wanted to replace the Shao clan as one of the 4 major families. I don't think they will hold back against this Xiao Yan. Shu Mo narrowed his eyes and muttered softly to Zhou Yuan, who was standing beside him. Shao clan? Upon hearing this, Zhou Yuan was slightly shocked. He had never thought that Xiao Yan would have a connection with the Shao clan. After hearing Shu Mo's analysis, it was quite possible. Originally, the most outstanding generation in the Shao clan should be Xiao Yi. For some reason, he didn't participate. This Xiao Yan had never heard of him before, but he had also come to participate in the 4 academies competition. This had nothing to do with the Shao clan. How could a mere monarch emperor come here? Shu Mo chuckled and said disapprovingly. Zhou Yuan nodded silently. He didn't say anything, but his heart was filled with waves. Xiao Yan, I would like to see how strong you have become. Although Lei Yunting is powerful, if it was you, you should be able to win. As he thought about it, the corner of Zhou Yuan's mouth slowly formed an inexplicable smile. He calmed his heart and no longer looked at the others. Swoosh! A rushing wind sound suddenly sounded in a split second after everyone was lost in their thoughts. Immediately, everyone's attention was drawn over. They were currently waiting for the victor of the final arena. The patience of most people had already been exhausted during these 2 months of waiting. Xiao Yan? A ray of light shot into the sky. Lin Dao's sharp eyes immediately recognized Xiao Yan. His voice was a little hoarse as he spoke. It's that fellow. Zhou Bai's eyes were like lightning. He also discovered it in an instant. He clenched his teeth and his expression was ugly. Although he knew that Xiao Yan had some tricks up his sleeve, he did not expect that Lei Yunting would actually be defeated by the latter. Zhou Yuan raised his head and looked at Xiao Yan. That familiar face was the same as before. After so many years, he could still clearly remember it. Su Ziyang moved his lips but didn't say anything. In his heart, he was filled with emotion. That guy whom he looked down upon in the past had now arrived here. Crack! Xiao Yan gently landed on the ground and ignored the gazes of the crowd. He went straight to Su Ziyang's side and glanced at Mu Yuyang and the others. He raised his brows slightly and said in a suspicious tone, "Where is Wu Shaoqi?" The 3 people behind Su Ziyang were Mu Yuyang, Lin Dao and Zhu Tianwo. Wu Shaoqi was nowhere to be seen. She lost, but she also dragged Wu Tian away. "Can't you see Xing Qianyu's facial expression?" Su Ziyang said softly. He could tell that Xing Qianyue was angry. He was also quite satisfied with Wu Shaoqi's strength. After all, Wu Tiandu's strength was ranked at the top of Star Sky Academy. Similarly, he had completely broken Xing Qianyu's plan. The latter had thought that all 5 of them would arrive at the top of the mountain safely. Now, Wu Tiandu had been defeated, and Sang Shoshan was seriously injured as well. I lost. Xiao Yan lowered his eyes when he heard this. He didn't say anything, but his heart was filled with regret. It was reasonable to say that Wu Shaoqi had obtained the inheritance of the Fire Emperor scripture. Even if she hadn't fully comprehended it, her strength shouldn't be underestimated. He didn't expect that both of them would suffer heavy injuries. While thinking, he couldn't help but look in the direction of the Star Sky Academy. Xing Qianyu's face was gloomy. He crossed his arms over his chest and said nothing. Behind him, there was only Kang Feng, Sang Hao, Shi Kanghai and the seriously injured Sang Shoshan. You have done very well. You have exceeded my expectations. The next match will be the real battle. Su Ziyang took a deep breath. His eyes were cold. 0 inches 1, 2, 3. A total of 12 people have come up. 8 have been eliminated. The number is just right. Old Man Chang narrowed his eyes and said with a smile. Originally, he thought that there would be 12 people coming up. Coincidentally, Wu Shaoqi and Wu Tiandu were both seriously injured and eliminated. Sang Shoshan and Zhan Qingyi, on the other hand, were equally matched, so the number was exactly the same. Swoosh! As soon as he finished speaking, the old man stretched out his hand, and a spiritual light surged in his palm. In the next moment, an extremely large black crystal space appeared out of thin air on the empty ground not far away. Standing outside, one could clearly see everything inside. Wang! The moment the black crystal space appeared, the entire sky trembled slightly. Then, under everyone's astonished gazes, a pillar of light seemed to pierce through the heavens and the earth. It crashed down from the clouds, and a black crystalline light shot out from above the black crystal space. The 2 layers of light were quickly inlaid, producing a deafening buzzing sound. At the same time, The light pillar also connected the black crystal space to the sky above. This is the profound crystal realm, the place where you will fight in the end. The old man withdrew his arm. His expression seemed to be somewhat exhausted. It was obvious that releasing the profound crystal realm had consumed too much of his energy. The profound crystal realm was bestowed by the Star Domain Guardian. It is indestructible. It can be considered a unique spatial zone. Everything within it is material. Whether it is the density of the origin chi or the gravity, it is 10 times denser than the outside. Most importantly, the time inside. It was 10 times slower than the outside. In other words, you won't be able to feel it inside. But outside, we can clearly see your every move. Ling Gu's voice was clear and clear, introducing the unusual aspects of the profound crystal realm. So, you can do whatever you want inside. Don't worry about destroying anything. Show me your full strength. You can actually control time? This is a technique that only the supreme experts at the supreme level can use. This profound crystal realm is a good thing. Tisk tisk. If our sect possesses this technique and let our disciples cultivate inside, our strength will skyrocket. Quote. Before Ling Gu's voice faded, the surrounding experts had already exclaimed in astonishment. A burst of whispers broke out, and their gazes towards the profound crystal realm became a little more fervent. After all, to be able to slow down time by 10 times was simply too heaven-defying. In today's great world, even those true peak sects probably didn't have such a thing. Xiao Yan looked at the profound crystal realm with a surprised expression, and his eyes couldn't help but reveal a trace of shock. After all, even though the fighting monarch of the lower realm could create its own spatial zone, it was impossible to control the flow of time. It was unbelievable that an expert at the level of a supreme saint could actually control the flow of time. Not only Xiao Yan, even Su Ziyang and the other leaders of the academy had shocked expressions on their faces. This was the first time they had seen such a thing. Controlling the time. Humph, humph, what that old fellow said was too simple. Even an ordinary supreme saint would not be able to comprehend such a heaven-defying law. No matter how powerful those Star Domain Guardians were, it was impossible for them to possess such a thing. There's a high chance that it was created by that Domain Lord when he was still alive. While Xiao Yan was still in shock, the voice of the Xiao Ao suddenly resounded in his mind, and his tone was filled with amazement. The Supreme Saint. Can he really control time? Xiao Yan muttered to himself in his heart. No matter what, an intangible thing like time was different from space. Although it did exist, it was the most profound ability in the world. And it was precisely this ability that allowed even an utmost being saint to not be able to escape, thus disappearing into the long river of time. This, I am not sure either. In short, there is a strict distinction between saints. The level of the old fellow is merely the most ordinary tier. For example, the level of a domain lord. An even more powerful tier. Above this tier, there are soul demons. For those at the level of the 9 disciples. In short, it is very chaotic. He shook his head. The Xiao Ao said with a complicated expression. In his previous life, although he was also a holy beast that had shocked the various regions, it was not worth mentioning in the eyes of a true expert. He did not understand the secrets of the Supreme Saint level. There were still too many things that he did not understand. Xiao Yan nodded his head silently. That level was still too far away for him right now. What was pressing in his heart right now was how to get through the heart flame burning that had broken through to the Emperor cultivation from the Monarch Emperor. Old Man Chiang's eyes swept across the crowd. When he noticed the greed, shock, and eagerness in everyone's eyes, he sneered in his heart. Without revealing anything, he looked at the light pillar that connected the sky and the profound crystal realm. With this, even if the heavenly sovereign expert came, it would be impossible for it to take away the profound crystal realm. Let me introduce the rules of the final battle. He raised his hand and stopped everyone's voices. Old Man Chang looked at the 12 students in front of him. When everyone heard this, their spirits were lifted and they listened attentively. The last rule is that there are no rules. The moment the words left his mouth, everyone was stunned. Whispers broke out once again. Even Su Ziyang, Xing Qianyue, and the others couldn't help but frown. Rules meant that there were no rules. What was this? The 12 of you can fight alone in the profound crystal realm, but you can also fight together. In short, the last person standing inside will be the final winner this time. The loser will be automatically eliminated from the profound crystal realm. According to the ranking of each of you who is eliminated, the corresponding academy will be ranked in the competition this time. Old Man Chang talked and explained the corresponding rules in detail. For example, if a person is eliminated in the first place, then his ranking will be 12. His teammate will be eliminated in the 6th place, and his ranking will be 6th. The total score of this academy is 18. In other words, the lower the score, the more likely it is for the academy to get first place. What? As soon as Old Man Chang said those words, the expressions of the 4 leaders changed. This was the first time they had heard of such a rule. Ha ha ha, there's going to be a show to watch. With 12 people fighting together, the scene will probably be much livelier. That's right, this kind of rule also has its benefits. It can display one's ability to the greatest extent. Different from Su Ziyang and the other 3, the experts in the outer perimeter were discussing amongst themselves. This was a scene that they were happy to see. Don't worry, this profound crystal realm only looks so big from the outside, but the space inside is very big. It's at least a quarter of the size of this island. It's enough for all of you to create a disturbance. Ling Jiyu laughed and said in a clear voice. Interesting, Lin Dao muttered to himself. Both of his eyes were flickering with a warm glow. This chaotic scene was suitable for his cold and bloodthirsty personality. What a joke! Are you treating us as spirit beasts to entertain others? Zhu Tianwo's face was still slightly pale, but his spirit was much better. Gritting his teeth, he muttered to himself. For a moment, almost all of the 12 people had their doubts. The leaders of the 4 great academies were also deep in thought. As a result, they had no choice but to consider the problem of tactics. What's there to think about? I alone am enough to deal with a bunch of clowns. Kang Feng's expression was cold. He looked at Xing Qianyue, who was deep in thought. His voice was cold, but it was filled with disdain. A clown? Do you think you can fight everyone here by yourself? Zhan Qingyu's pretty face turned cold when she heard this. Her cold voice was filled with uncontrollable anger. Of course I can. Kang Feng's expression did not change. He looked at Zhan Qingyu coldly, causing the latter to feel as if she had fallen into an ice cave. It was as if she was being stared at by a peerless monster. Her body trembled slightly. What a big tone. On the other side, Zhou Bai's eyes were like a torch as he stared at Kang Feng and spoke word by word. Don't talk to me with this kind of tone. When you enter, you better pray for your own good. In Kang Feng's eyes, a wisp of black clear qi flashed and vanished, as if he was muttering to himself. That guy. Mu Yuyang's eyes were like swords as he looked at Kang Feng. He frowned slightly. From the latter, he seemed to have a strong sense of unease. I understand. Xiao Yan, who had been silent for a long time, suddenly spoke in a soft voice. After that, he grinned. There was a solemn expression on his face. You've Mu. This guy should be where you are hiding. 0. The top of the mountain was bustling with noise. After Old Man Chang introduced the so-called rules, the people who had been silent for a few days finally became lively. 4 hours later, all students will enter the profound crystal realm. Old Man Chang waved his sleeve and looked at the light pillar that connected the profound crystal realm and the sky above. His voice was like thunder that resounded in everyone's ears. Automatically eliminated? What if he dies? Just as the old man finished speaking, a cold voice suddenly sounded. It was not loud, but it instantly attracted everyone's attention. The speaker was Kang Feng. This young man from the star sky, he has a really bad temper. A white-haired old woman wearing a gray robe immediately saw the faint trace of murderous aura on Kang Feng's body. She immediately frowned and said. Before she finished speaking, the old lady only felt a chill all over her body. When she sensed a cold gaze looking at her, she could not help but tremble. Impossible. The power of the profound crystal realm is extremely powerful. After detecting the weakness of the life forms in the profound crystal realm, it will be sent out immediately. There will be no death in there. Old Man Chiang's face was solemn, and his voice was cold as well. HMPH. Upon hearing this, Kang Feng retracted his gaze from the white-haired old woman, and let out a cold snort. He didn't say anything else. Xing Qianyue furrowed his brows and couldn't help but look at Kang Feng. Clearly, he had also discovered that the latter was unusual. Elder Su, let's work together. While Xiao Yan and the others were silent, Yi Zhan suddenly walked over from the side. She brought along a fragrant wind and looked at Su Ziyang gently. Su Ziyang's face slightly twitched. He looked at Xiao Yan and the other three people, and a trace of struggle flashed across his eyes. He still said in a deep voice, "Sorry, I can't make a decision on this kind of thing. In the final battle, I don't want to use any rules to restrict them." Yi Zan heard this and nodded her head lightly. Disappointment quickly surged through her beautiful eyes. In the heart of this man in front of her, the matters of the academy were indeed the most important. Not far from them, Tang Hong's originally smiling face also became slightly solemn at this moment. Even the Lei Yunting that he thought the most highly of was eliminated. This kind of blow really made him suffer. "I don't doubt it. I have nothing to say in Star Moon. In any case, just try your best. I know your character, but in Profound Crystal Realm, it's best if you don't make any rash moves." He sighed. Tang Hong's expression changed, and in the end, it turned into a helpless voice. "I know." Zhou Buyi calmly nodded his head in agreement. The losses suffered by Nan Tian were undoubtedly disastrous. If he continued to act according to his character, he was afraid that he would bring unpredictable consequences to Nan Tian. Zhou Xingyue, who was standing at the side, only muttered to herself. Her big watery eyes looked in the direction of the Yunluo Academy. When she saw that Wu Shaoqi was not there, her brows slightly wrinkled and a trace of boredom flashed across her face. Glancing at Yi Zan's back as she turned and left, the complicated look in Su Ziyang's eyes became even more intense. He opened his mouth but still did not say anything. He only looked at Xiao Yan and the others and took a deep breath. "There are 4 people here. Your performance is already good enough. Next, use your full strength. As for who you want to team up with, you can make your own decision inside." The 4 of them nodded. Zhu Tianwo took a deep look at Su Ziyang. He didn't say anything. During the days he had spent with Su Ziyang, he clearly understood Su Ziyang's feelings towards the academy. For the sake of the academy, he could really give up everything, and it was precisely because of this that. Now that he thought back to the time when Su Ziyang allowed Xiao Yi to kill him, although his heart was still filled with resentment, it was no longer as intense as before. In the next 4 hours, everyone was looking at the 12 students in the middle with great interest. Most of them were looking at the mysterious Profound Crystal Realm, waiting for the start of the competition. In a hidden corner, Zhou Yuan's gaze was like a torch as it swept across all the students. His expression was also slightly grave. The strength of these students on the surface was not inferior to his. If he were to attack, he did not know that he would be able to reach that final step. "Time is up. All students, enter the Profound Crystal Realm." Just as the time was up, Ling Gu's voice immediately sounded. It was just like the spiritual voice of an empty valley, suppressing everyone's voices. In this world, there was only this voice drifting about. Wah! As if the fuse had been ignited, everyone's nature once again soared. They all cast their gazes towards the 12 people in the center of the arena. Their gazes weren't bad, so they could naturally see how outstanding these students were. Those who were able to take the lead among them, if they were able to be roped into their own sects, their future potential would definitely be immeasurable. Ka ka ka. At the same time, the Profound Crystal Realm also rumbled. The crystal surface rippled like ripples, and it looked quite beautiful. Boom! The instant the Profound Crystal Realm was opened, a figure rushed out like a ray of light and directly entered the Profound Crystal Realm. The other 3 students from the Star Sky Academy did not hesitate when they saw Kang Feng enter. They also clearly understood in their hearts that the other 3 academies would most likely join forces to deal with them. If it was not for Kang Feng, with their strength, they really weren't a match for all of them. "Let's go." Mu Yuyang stretched his body and let out cracking sounds of bones colliding. He nodded slightly, then his body moved like the wind, speeding towards Profound Crystal Realm. Behind him, Xiao Yan, Lin Dao, and Zhu Tianwo did not slow down at all. Under everyone's gaze, they entered Profound Crystal Realm one after another. "Kiera, Qingyu, this time the Glaze Academy will depend on the 2 of you. Kiera, your ability is very special. You don't need to deliberately suppress it. Just release it." Yi Zan touched Kiera's head and said gently, "Teacher Ye, I know." Kiera lowered her head and answered softly. After hearing Yi Zan's words, there was a faint trace of excitement in her eyes. "Don't worry, we will definitely do our best." Zan Qingyi clenched her fist and her 5 fingers were slender. After she finished speaking, under Yi Zan's gratified gaze, Zan Qingyi and Kiera also entered the Profound Crystal Realm. In just a moment, the 12 students all entered. The surrounding people gathered around and looked at the profound crystal realms seriously. Outside, they could clearly see everything inside, but inside, they could not see the outside. This was also very beneficial to the students fighting and would not be disturbed by external factors. Why aren't these students moving? Seeing the 12 people who had entered the profound crystal realm whispering to each other, but staying where they were, they did not move at all. Some experts could not help but voice out in doubt. Are all the people from the Sky Cloud Martial School so brainless? We didn't even think about it. What we saw was a space that was hundreds of meters in size, but the space inside was extremely vast. They didn't seem to be moving, but they might have already flown inside. I don't know where they are. Elder Zhang has also said before that it's beneficial for us to observe. A mocking voice sounded after his voice sounded. It was the expert from another sect who had a conflict with the former. His words immediately caused everyone to laugh. The face of the middle-aged man, who had spoken earlier, involuntarily turned red. He glared at the former and clenched his teeth. He did not say anything. Within the profound crystal realm, what appeared in front of everyone was a vast land that stretched as far as the eye could see. Looking up, what they saw was a stretch of yellow sand that covered 1,000 miles of land. Xiao Yan, who had already experienced the spatial zone, was not surprised when he saw this. He quickly identified his direction and left with Mu Yuyang and the others. Several people from the other academies also left after being shocked. Here, the battle was not a close combat, but an ambush and attack. If we gather together, even if the 4 people from the Star Sky Academy come together, they won't be able to do anything to us in a short period of time. Next, we need to find the right time and attack together with all 4 of us. We need to eliminate the people from the Star Sky Academy who have fallen out of the list as soon as possible. Mu Yuyang's voice rang in their ears, and they nodded in agreement. No matter what, the Star Sky Academy was a bone that was hard to chew. This was the only way to get rid of it. Wang! While they were flying, a buzzing sound was suddenly heard from the entire spatial zone. Before anyone could react, Old Man Chiang's voice had already resounded throughout the entire profound crystal realm. Kang Feng of Star Sky Academy, eliminate Zhan Qingyi of Glaze Academy. Quote, 1 inch what? As soon as Old Man Chiang's words left his mouth, it instantly caused a huge commotion in the profound crystal realm. Not only Xiao Yan, even Mu Yuyang and Lin Dao were shocked. Obviously, they didn't expect Kang Feng to be so fierce. The 2 men from the Glaze Academy only arrived a few minutes later than Xiao Yan and the other 3 men. Even if the 4 men from the Star Sky Academy came together, they wouldn't be able to eliminate Zhan Qingyu so quickly. In the Glaze Academy, Zhan Qingyu wasn't any weaker than Mu Yuyang in the Yunluo. Zhou Bai's status in the southern domain and his strength were among the top of all the participants in the competition. It was really out of everyone's expectation that he would be eliminated as soon as he entered the competition. Outside the profound crystal realm, the onlookers were also shocked. From their observations, Zhan Qingyu and Kiera were suddenly attacked by Kang Feng the moment they entered the profound crystal realm. In a rush, Kiera and Zhan Qingyu did not even make any preparations. They could only release origin cheese to cover their entire bodies before they saw Kang Feng's figure flash. In a place like profound crystal realm where the flow of time was 10 times slower, everyone could only see an afterimage flash past. In the next moment, Kang Feng appeared beside Zhan Qingyu. In an instant, it was as if he had struck out hundreds and thousands of palm strikes. The light in the palm shone brightly. In the end, it turned into streams of dense black clear qi and blasted into Zhan Qingyu's body. The latter's delicate body trembled and she fainted in an instant. She was transported out of the profound crystal realm. Qingyi! Yi Zhan's expression changed slightly. With a flash, she arrived in midair and hugged Zhan Qingyi in her arms. When she saw the latter's pale face, she extended her trembling hand to touch her chest. When she sensed that the life force within her body was almost completely cut off, disbelief immediately appeared on her beautiful face. Clenching her teeth, Yi Zhan gently bit her red lips and returned to her original spot without saying anything. With a flip of her hand, a purple-colored medicine pill that emitted a strange fragrance appeared in her palm. She carefully stuffed it into Zhan Qingyu's mouth. Jade Spirit Profound Yin Pill? Su Ziyang, who was standing by the side, immediately recognized the medicine pill that Yi Zhan had taken out. He frowned. He muttered to himself. This medicine pill was a genuine 6th-grade medicine pill. It was considered to be at the peak of Tier 6. It had an extremely strong healing effect when one's life force was seriously damaged. Even for people of their strength, it was useful. However, the side effects were also extremely great. Unless it was absolutely necessary, no one would consume this medicine pill. My injuries are too severe. Yi Zhan did not raise her head and seemed to be talking to herself. Su Ziyang heard it very clearly and his eyes became even more shocked. Yi Zhan had told him about Zhan Qingyi's strength these few days. She had said that she had the strength to fight even a peak of Monarch Emperor warrior. Even if Kang Feng suddenly attacked, he would not be able to injure Zhan Qingyi in an instant. That kid is strange. Yi Zhan's beautiful eyes were slightly red. She gritted her teeth and looked at Zhan Qingyi's painful face. Her heart seemed to be bleeding. Su Ziyang raised his eyes and looked over. Although Xing Qianyue was pleasantly surprised in the distance, it could be seen that the latter was also extremely shocked by Kang Feng's sudden display of strength. What a ruthless kid. His timing is perfect. This kind of combat awareness is not inferior to an emperor cultivation warrior's. Among the crowd, there were many experts with sharp eyes. However, they were also shocked by Kang Feng's fierce attack. They were all amazed, and Zhou Yuan, who was standing in the distance, furrowed his brows. Even though he had combat experience that most of the people present had never had before, he was still amazed by Kang Feng. The flow of time in Profound Crystal Realm was 10 times slower than in the outside world. Therefore, everyone in Profound Crystal Realm could clearly see the movements of the people outside, but the speed that Kang Feng displayed just now still shocked many people. That little girl's strength isn't ordinary either. While everyone was exclaiming about Kang Feng's strength, someone looked at the Profound Crystal Realm and exclaimed, instantly attracting everyone's attention. In the Profound Crystal Realm, Kang Feng had a surprised expression on his face. The black qi in his palm was fluctuating, and he was looking forward with a cold gaze. There, Kiara was gasping for breath. On her delicate face, there was a determined look. Extending her arms, the origin qi around her. It was an extremely unusual grayish color. The grayish origin energy transformed into numerous ripples. It enveloped him and actually temporarily blocked Kang Feng's black clear qi. This is a spatial origin qi? A black light flashed across Kang Feng's eyes. He mumbled to himself and frowned. Then, he sneered. Although it is powerful, the user's ability is still too weak. There is nothing to be afraid of. Whoosh! He gently raised one hand and the origin qi that filled the sky crazily surged over. It was as if 10,000 Buddhas were roaring towards the sect from all directions. Within Kang Feng's palm, a frightening black clear qi was like a deep space as it slowly flowed and absorbed all the origin qis that had rushed over. In the blink of an eye, an indescribable black light blade had already formed in his palm. This black color was so deep that it penetrated one's bones. At a glance, one's heart trembled. The enormous power contained within it caused the hearts of Sang Shoshan and the others, who were standing not far away, to tremble. What kind of technique is this? A look of shock appeared in Sang Hao's eyes as he muttered to himself. In his impression, although Kang Feng's strength was amazing, he had never grasped such an amazing monarch skill before. He even had a strong feeling about it. If he was hit by this black light blade, he would most likely die instantly. Shi Kanghai was also trembling with fear. He had never felt this kind of power from any of the Imperial Tao elders in the academy. Sang Shoshan's expression was solemn, and he clenched his fists tightly. At this moment, what he thought of was not the academy. If Kang Feng really had such strength, to the Sang clan, he would be a huge threat in the future. Although the Sang clan had the tyrant Heavenly King body, Sang Yu, the latter was in the battle domain. He had never cared about the matters of his family, and Kang Feng had suddenly emerged from nowhere. In the long run, it was not a good thing. Kiara raised her head and looked over. When she saw that Kang Feng was ready to use the monarch skill, her already pale face became even more serious. She gently bit her teeth and her 10 fingers quickly formed a seal. The gray origin qi that surrounded her body seemed to have a spirit of its own as it wrapped around her delicate body layer by layer. If one looked closely, they would find that she had actually disappeared from where she stood. Disappeared? It didn't disappear at the maximum speed. It really disappeared into the spatial zone. How is that possible? She's only a monarch emperor level. How could she possibly comprehend the spatial force that only heavenly sovereign expert can master? Everyone in the outside world was shocked when they saw Kiera disappear. Their voices were filled with disbelief, and they were even more shocked than when they saw Kang Feng's strength. This is her ability? Su Ziyang was also stunned. He said with a shocked expression. That's right. A spatial origin qi is rare even in the ancient era. Yi Zong carried Zan Qingyu with a calm expression. They were outside the profound crystal realm, so they naturally couldn't feel the sharpness of the black light blade unleashed by Kang Feng. Spatial attribute. Unbelievable. Su Ziyang nodded silently. Everyone's origin qi had different attributes. The most common ones were the 5 elemental origin qi. Lightning, ice, and other attributes were rare. It was also very common for everyone. As for the spatial attribute origin qi, it was extremely rare to possess such an origin qi. Even if one had not reached the heavenly sovereign, they would still have more or less grasped some spatial energy. It was enough to easily defeat experts of the same level. In the distance, Old Man Chang and the others had stunned expressions. It was a long time ago before they slowly exhaled. Their expressions were complicated, and it was unknown what they were thinking. Using spatial strength in front of me is extremely laughable. Kang Feng's expression did not change when he saw Kiera disappear. He did not care about it at all. The corner of his mouth lifted into a cold smile. Immediately, his eyes narrowed. Black clear qi surged within his eyes, forming a black spiraling black shadow that seemed to have shattered the void. "I've found you." Kang Feng smiled lightly. He stretched out his palm and waved it. A whistling sound of wind was heard from his palm, and a black blade of light was about to be swung out. All of a sudden, Kang Feng frowned, and his body swayed. In the next moment, a long spear ruthlessly pierced through his chest. Lin Dao stepped on the empty air and slowly appeared behind him. Swoosh! Kang Feng, who had been pierced by the long spear, trembled. After which, he turned into a shadow and disappeared. Lin Dao raised his eyebrows and the air under his feet shattered. He had already swiftly dodged. "Are you from the Yunluo Academy so impatient to die?" When Lin Dao returned to the middle of Xiaoyan and the others, the void in the distance shook. Kang Feng's figure slowly appeared. At the same time, his cold voice echoed. "1 inch, be careful, this guy is too strong." Mu Yuyang's eyes were full of vigilance. The heavenly net sword was already in his hand, and he reminded Lin Dao in a low voice. Even with Lin Dao's speed, he was still discovered by Kang Feng. It was hard to imagine how terrifying the latter's speed was. Xiaoyan and the others had grave expressions on their faces. They nodded and did not speak when they heard this. After Kang Feng eliminated Zan Qingyi in an instant just now, everyone made a prompt decision and gave up on their original plan. They decided to join hands to deal with Kang Feng. If they were to be defeated by the latter one by one, it was likely that they would only end up losing. Crack! The sound of space shattering was transmitted from a short distance away. Kiera's pretty face appeared pale as she appeared. She looked gratefully at Xiaoyan and the rest. She merely hesitated for a moment before her body moved and arrived beside Xiaoyan and the rest. Her face instantly turned red when she saw the gazes of these people. Immediately, her expression became firm as she looked at Kang Feng. "Hey!" Seeing this, Kang Feng's face turned red. The black silhouette in his eyes moved and smiled coldly. Immediately after, he turned his head and looked at a place not far away from him. He smiled faintly and said, "They're all here?" As soon as his voice faded, 2 flowing lights rushed over and steadily stopped beside Xiaoyan and the other 3. They were Zhou Buyi and Zhou Xingyue, who had left earlier. "You also have a sense of crisis." Mu Yuyang glanced at Zhou Buyi indifferently. He was not the least bit surprised by the latter's arrival. "What else can I do? Waiting to be eliminated?" Zhou Buyi's tone was calm, but his eyes were fixed on Kang Feng. He could feel a strong pressure coming from Kang Feng's body. Good, good, good. Seeing that everyone had gathered, Kang Feng suddenly burst into a wild laughter. His black hair was fluttering in the wind, and the black qi in his eyes was circulating crazily. He threw his head back and laughed, causing the surrounding air to crack. "Join forces? Do you think we don't have anyone?" Shi Kanghai sneered. His voice echoed like thunder. In a few blinks, he appeared beside Kang Feng, facing so many people. He felt a trace of wild joy in his heart. Sang Hao and Sang Shoshan stepped forward with gloomy expressions. Although both of them had a conflict with Kang Feng's sudden increase in strength, under the current circumstances, they could only attack. What do you have in mind? The origin chi around Zhou Bai's body vibrated, emitting a powerful chi. He turned to Mu Yuyang and asked. On Xiaoyan's side, Mu Yuyang was obviously the leader of the group. Among them, only he and Mu Yuyang had the same strength. They are just a bunch of ants. Before Mu Yuyang could say anything, Kang Feng shouted from afar. He didn't care about Sang Hao and the other two. He rushed towards the group of people with an imposing manner, as if he was going to break the blue sky. Let's follow the previous plan. Lin Dao, bring Xiaoyan and the others to deal with Sang Hao and the other two. Zhou Buyi, you and I will work together to deal with Kang Feng. At this critical moment, Mu Yuyang suddenly cried out. At the same time, his body had already rushed forward. The heavenly net sword in his hand instantly danced with tens of thousands of long arcs. There was a green lotus on each of the long arcs. Each lotus was budding and seemed to contain an endless amount of power. Green lotus sword truth. This guy actually succeeded in cultivating it. Zhou Bai's expression turned slightly serious. He had secretly asked around about Mu Yuyang's trump card. Green Lotus Sword Dao was the monarch skill that the great elder of Yunluo Academy had personally bestowed upon Mu Yuyang. Its grade was extremely high, and it had already reached the mid-grade monarch arts. Great Zhou Heavenly Dao Seal. Zhou Bai's movements weren't slow at all. His body was like a dragon, and his joints were cracking. As he flipped his 10 fingers, the origin chi around his body shot up into the sky. In the blink of an eye, a huge square seal had formed above his head. The huge seal was a dark gray color, and it was mysterious and unpredictable. It was enough to suppress all 4 directions. It was the supreme cultivation technique of the Zhou clan, the monarch arts that was derived from the great Zhou evolution art. Swoosh! The moment the two of them moved, Lin Dao's sword-shaped eyebrows stood straight, and the air under his feet shattered. He pointed his finger at the sky, and with a slight sway of his body, he had already arrived in front of Sang Hao. The Imperial Dragon Point blue spear transformed into an azure dragon, and the tip of the spear let out a wild roar. It pierced through the space, and pierced towards Sang Hao's chest. Holy Spirit Flame, Void. Although Zhu Tianwo's speed was far slower than Lin Dao's, he was still not satisfied. A flame pattern appeared between his brows. The fire source in the air seemed to have surrendered to an emperor. It formed a flaming bridge in the air, and the flames in his hand roared. It was as if he was holding 2 fire dragons, and he attacked Shi Kanghai. Ka! Xiaoyan's eyes sparkled. He did not attack directly like Lin Dao and Zhu Tianwo. His glabella slightly bulged, and a majestic soul force spread out, following Lin Dao's attack towards Sang Hao. Such a chaotic scene, a soul attack that was caught off guard, was obviously much stronger than the monarch skill. Zhou Xingyue, who was standing aside, hesitated for a moment. Starlight surged around her like a shooting star as she rushed towards Sang Shoshan. Along the way, the starlight shattered and the sky was filled with multicolored light. It was the monarch skill of the Great Circulatory Cycle Revolution. It was called the Great Circulatory Cycle Stellar Splitter. It was the only monarch skill among the 10 monarch skill that needed to absorb starlight to cultivate, and it was ranked at the peak of the low-grade monarch arts. Kiera was standing at the side. When she saw Xiaoyan's eyes were closed and not moving at all, a bright light flashed in her eyes. She had already understood something. Immediately, a gray-colored origin chi lingered around her body. Her body had already disappeared from where she was standing. Thousand-blade fierce light. Great flame explosion. The great flame explosion. 9 breaks of surging waves. Facing Lin Dao and the other 2 men's aggressive attacks, Sang Hao and the other 2 men were shocked. All of them unleashed their monarch skill, which was used by Sang Hao and Sang Shoshan. It was the ultimate skill of Sang Clan and Shi Kanghai. As the son of the master of Surging Waves Prefecture, he naturally had an extraordinary skill as well. As his palms struck out, endless waves of water poured down from the 9 heavens. It blocked Zhu Tianwo's fiery bridge and welcomed the roaring fire dragon. Outside the profound crystal realm, everyone was watching the battle in the inner world with nervous expressions. No one would have thought that the final battle would break out so quickly. With the help of the 10 times slower time in the inner world, everyone could clearly see their attacks and techniques. At the same time, it also shocked everyone. 2 young men from the Zhou clan and 2 young men from the Sang clan. They are worthy of being called the disciples of the major families. They are able to master the ultimate techniques of their families so well. An expert saw through the monarch skill that these people were using with a single glance, and exclaimed in amazement. Not bad, even though they are able to use the monarch skill in a short period of time. There are still flaws, but it's already very difficult for someone at the monarch emperor to have such strength. The experts by the side sighed with emotion. With their eyesight, they were naturally able to see the flaws in their attacks. What is Xiao Yan doing? Su Ziyang's eyes were fixed on the inner world. At this critical moment when Mu Yuyang and Zhou Buyi were fighting Kang Feng together, Xiao Yan's actions had turned into countless questions in his mind. Has Kang Feng gone mad? Xing Qianyue was also stunned. He knew Kang Feng's strength very well. Although he was undeniably strong, it was still not enough to fight with Mu Yuyang and Zhou Buyi, the two strongest people in the other academies. Rumble. The grayish-black large seal, which was wrapped by thousands of long arcs, shot towards Kang Feng. Countless budding green lotuses slowly rotated around the large seal. They were filled with a different kind of spirituality and had a pleasing beauty. However, under the beauty, it was a terrifying power that shook one's soul. Fortunately, I have chosen this strongest body. This attack should be able to withstand it. Kang Feng rushed over without slowing down. When he saw the joint attack of Zhou Buyi and Mu Yuyang, he suddenly muttered to himself and shouted. Black clear qi surged around his body and shattered the surrounding space. The sound of cracking could be heard without an end. Bursting stream burial. Endless origin qis surged out from the space and gathered on Kang Feng's right fist. They seemed to have transformed into layers of quicksand that shook the heavens and the earth. They swept down and struck the huge seal with an unstoppable force.